so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we do have to have people that have every position in the military. We have to have enlisted men, we have to have officers, we have to have support staff, we have to have all of that, and we have to be doing all of those activities. So no, we're not always going to be throwing a bomb about a particular issue. We're going to sometimes be doing different things, but we're still making the advances, we're still fighting the battles, we're still working towards winning the war. And yeah, it's advocacy doesn't always look like advocacy, and people just need to be a little more patient in their impatience.
I just want to say before we move on from the topic, I just want to say, T, thank you. I really appreciate it, and very good job. Just want to give you a little golf clap. She knows what she did.
Yes, very much so. Agreed. I read it.
One quick thing.
Sure thing.
This is politics, not war. And it is war. I understand the battle that's going on. I mean, I talk about it being war all the time. We need converts. There are no converts in war. That's
true. That's true. But it's a useful analogy for, cooks and soldiers and, all of that kind of stuff.
And no. The war analogy is great. I totally agree with the war analogy. I'm simply saying I think I'm agreeing with Leslie. I think at times we forget it's more than that.
And the reason that we see people talking in terms of war, I've done it myself in speeches that I've made in front of rallies and whatever. The reason people do that is because they feel attacked by the government, the left. They feel as though they're put on the defensive, and so they believe that we should be fighting with every bit of ammunition, always pointing guns and always firing, regardless of the position. It's easy to understand with backs against the wall when you think that you're surrounded, when you feel surrounded, to get into to think of it as a war, and that you are out to defeat everyone on the other side. That is not your team. But you're right. Converts are hugely important, and we can't overlook that. We can't start with only the people that agree with us and end with only the people that agree with us. You've said it again and again, Andy. Mathematically, it doesn't work.
Well, and I think it's important that we remember everybody is wired differently. So if you are a really fiery personality and that fits you, by all means, go for it. But for others of us who are not wired that way, we don't want to be in constant outrage. And we can reach people that you can't. So let's remember that, and let's practice a little bit of acceptance on our own side, and just realize that we all have different styles of sharing our beliefs, too.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic here of simultaneously trying to have the left attack itself and trying on our side to grow our party, I think something that we should talk about, and something that we should continue to talk about going forward, something that actually is something of real importance in the 2016 election when it comes to local races, when it comes to just sort of growing the party. We have been absent in a lot of ways in a lot of communities. One of those areas that we haven't quite made as big a push in as we should are urban communities, and there are so many issues that we can talk about that are really conservative issues that we can get some real headway on. One of those issues, and something that has been talked about a lot, school choice, and there's a reason why. Fishy shared this in the show prep thread, and it's an article that features a video from Reason, and Reason is not the only guys who have been doing this. We've also seen videos from Rebel Pundit and from Freedom Works. They have an empowerment, not entitlement, I think is what the Freedom Works project is, that talks specifically about urban issues. But this video that Reason put out was specifically about why government money can't fix poverty, and one of the big issues that they talk about is the immense spending. And this happens a lot here in New Jersey, and I know firsthand from this. I know teachers who have had classrooms where the students, per student, The classroom is supposed to get in the 20,000 per student, $20,000 per student, and upwards, past that in Camden and in Newark, and it is insane that we're spending that kind of money and we're still failing these kids. This is one of those subjects, talking about school choice, talking about these things, that broadens the party and something that we can go into urban areas and say, hey, you know what, we actually do care despite what the left says, and hey, they want to have they want to take away more of your jobs. We want to bring education. We want to bring money for you to put your kids in the best school. That's what we want to do. We want to have the money follow the kid. That's the stuff that we want to get done. These are issues that we can use, and a sort of, we are paying attention to it. I think that is a huge thing to point out, and a huge thing that we all need to educate ourselves about. We are seeing more and more of these documentaries like this recent one, Why Government Money Can't Fix Poverty.
From my experience with working in inner city schools with high-risk youth, there's usually two different groups. You've got the generational poverty, who they don't care about education. They are living in the moment. They value entertainment. They're not thinking long-term. And then you've got those who are on welfare, but they're newer to it. It's not a generational cycle. And I think that message that you just shared would resonate very well with that population, because they don't want to stay there. They want to get out of those neighborhoods. So I think that as we're going into these neighborhoods, I think it's important that we understand who our audience is and not get discouraged if we can't always reach the people that we're trying to reach with this wonderful message. Because I don't have the answers on how to break through to the generational poverty crowd. I worked down there for 6 years, and it's something else. But there are a lot of people down there, and there are a lot of young people, children, who don't like being afraid walking to school, who don't like it that their mom and dad don't have jobs and that they don't have enough to eat for breakfast or lunch or dinner. And the best meal they get is, the Michelle Obama fare at lunch. So just keeping that in mind.
It's more like unfair.
Yeah, unfair is right. So it's just something that I really feel strongly about, because I saw it, like I said, for 6 years, and there is a way to break through it. I don't have all the answers, but we have to try.
Can I ask a question of my wife, but have everybody else hear it? Not the usual begging. No, this is just a question. Would it be a good? First of all, I kind of like Bobby Jindal's way of looking at it. We want the money. We don't want the kids to have to follow the money. We want the money to follow the kids. Let's empower the families, and that's a simple concept that people can understand. But what's that? Okay, I can't read it, JD.
You have to hold it still so that we can see it.
It's a backpack. That's what they're calling this now. Is if the money follows the kid, it's a backpack. What is it? Fishy, help me on this. Backpack funding. Yes.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, I like that term. Yeah.
It's a great term.
Here's the question for my wife. Since we can only reach, let's say we can only reach 20% out of the 100% that are in this school. Would that be beneficial, though, in that 20%, if reached, could then reach some of the other 80%?
Yeah, definitely. It's just you have to, like I said, you have to realize who your audience is, and you have to make sure that you're going towards an audience that is receptive. Because there is a certain segment of the population in those situations who will not listen. They don't care.
And it's a shame, and it's something, I think, while there is that segment that just doesn't care, regardless, I also think that there's a massive amount of people that we haven't talked to, that we haven't reached out to, that we haven't done anything to even say, hey, we exist and we have these ideas, so maybe you should check them out, and maybe we can talk and hear what your concerns are, hear what your goals are, and figure out something together. I mean, another issue, and I just briefly want to talk about this before we get into the left tactics segment, is that Generation Opportunity, GenOp, is doing a big push on mandatory minimum sentencing this year. That's something I already got an email. I've been seeing a bunch of articles pop up about this. I shared one to my Young Republicans group that I'm in. This is a subject that I think that we need to pay a lot of attention to, and something that a huge conservative group like Generation Opportunity is making a push on. We can talk about situations where people are going to jail for 55 years for selling pot. I mean, these are issues that actually impact people's lives and hurt families, and I mean it's a contributing factor to a lot of bad stuff, and we should be able to take a look at these mandatory minimum sentencing laws and agree that 55 years seems like a lot for somebody who didn't kill anybody, for somebody who didn't commit a heinous crime, for something that was a non-violent offense. These are things that can that we can use to really propel ourselves, and rightfully we should, because these are important issues to all Americans, because I mean we don't want to be jailing people for stuff that it shouldn't deserve 55 years.
No, I think this is an example of where Rand Paul is a very compelling possibility to be on our ticket, or at least to be leading the way. Look, we've got it, because here is an issue where we can make some headway and win some people. 55 years for selling pot, that's incredible. Unless, he sold really poor quality and maybe they were upset about it. Maybe this is maybe a complaint was filed. But first of all, that one's gonna work itself out, because pot's gonna be legal everywhere in the next few years. But why not, before that happens, take advantage of it politically? So,
absolutely, and it's not just. And this is another thing: is it's not just pot, and that's something that needs to be said. Something that I pointed out, one of the cases that I pointed out was the Shanine Allen case that happened here in New Jersey. Thankfully, she was able to get a pretrial intervention to alleviate her situation, but she was facing a mandatory minimum sentence of 3 years because how insane it is. She lives in Philadelphia. She got a concealed carry permit. She has her gun to protect herself because of the neighborhood she's in. She made a trip across the state lines into New Jersey, and she got pulled over by a police officer, and silly her, she told the cop that she had a gun and she had a permit for it, which is illegal. It doesn't carry over from from Pennsylvania to New Jersey, and she was facing 3 years in jail.
JD, isn't Boehner and Company advancing something to change that, to where you can carry across state lines and not face that kind of penalty?
There's a push for some reciprocity, recognition of gun licenses, just like we recognize driver's licenses and marriage licenses across states. And don't get me started on the marriage license thing. But there's some universal recognition of some laws. But the mandatory minimum issue is one that we see it in education, where kids get thrown into detention for some minor infraction because, we've got mandatory minimum sentencing for kids and we've got mandatory minimum sentencing for criminals, and it's taking the decision away from the local people who are best able to understand the real depths of the situation and to apply the most appropriate punishment for the crime. And those are things that conservatives and libertarians and liberals really should be able to partner on, and that again can be some of that, I don't like politics and I don't like politicians, but I'm going to get involved in a cause. These are the causes that can really change the world, and as we frequently talk, politics is downstream from culture. These things are cultural changes. If we can change the culture on terms of mandatory minimum sentencing and some of our criminal litigation stuff that we've got going on, and there are some really effective organizations working on it. If we can do that, those are the kinds of cultural shifts that can help politics reflect the changes that we can make happen through being active in causes for people who don't like being active in electoral politics.